So I have finally watched the movie Michael, which is the new film based on the Michael Jackson's life. I did not have much anticipation going into this movie, to be quite honest with you. I'm a fan of Michael Jackson. I love his music, but Michael Jackson as a person, I think he is incredibly shady. I don't believe him to be all that quite innocent, to be honest with you. But we're just here to talk about the film. And as a film, I think that Michael leaves a lot to be desired. It's not a great movie. I think that it's just an okay film. I wasn't bored while watching this movie, but I think that this movie is just very forgettable. The story is very thin, um, and there's so much you could have done with this story because Michael Jackson is a complicated person. He's a very interesting person, and he is just a very important figure in the music industry, and he was one of the most famous people in the entire world when he was alive. And I don't know, this movie just doesn't really go into his psyche all that much, and I would have liked to have seen that. And there's just so much that this movie like glosses over, and it is really just kind of a waste, I think, because this could have been an interesting and really fascinating movie about his life. But I don't know, it's just a watered down experience, and I was kind of disappointed with this movie overall. Um, Jafar Jackson is the best part of this movie, hands down. He is Michael Jackson. He is great in the concert scenes. He can dance, he can sing, and he really does a fantastic like Michael Jackson impression. And he is Michael Jackson. Like I believed it from the first like time we see him as an adult. Young Michael is great in the movie too. We don't see much of Jackson 5 here, like maybe the first 20 minutes of the movie, but I thought that he was good too in the film. Um, and yeah, Jafar Jackson is the reason why you should see this movie. For nothing else, it's for him. Coleman Domingo as Joe Jackson, I really thought was great as well. Like the relationship between these two, I think are what makes this movie watchable. You've heard the stories of Joe Jackson and how terrible he was as a human being and how badly he treated Michael when he was young. You heard all these stories, and this movie kind of portrayed that well, in my opinion. This movie is sort of about Joe Jackson and Michael Jackson, and I thought that this movie did that well. Miles Teller as John Branca, I thought was pretty just bland. He didn't really do anything to elevate this movie, in my opinion. He just played Miles Teller. And Nia Long as Catherine Jackson, I thought was pretty good in the film. She was pretty decent. But yeah, the acting here is fine. The direction by Antoine Fuqua, I thought was really kind of uninspired, which is kind of weird because I am a fan of Antoine Fuqua as a director. I think that he is a pretty good director most of the time, and here I just thought that the direction was okay. The camera just didn't move enough, in my opinion. The concert scenes kind of felt bland, and they really felt uninspired, unfortunately. The music is fantastic. Like, if you're a Michael Jackson fan, like you're probably gonna go see this movie, no matter what people are gonna say about it. So, yeah, the music is fantastic in this film, of course. But you just don't learn enough new things about Michael Jackson, and it would have been such an interesting thing to do to explore Michael Jackson in this movie. And he was probably the most famous person in the entire world when he was alive, and the movie sort of like explores that, but not enough. And I would have liked to have seen his creative process a little bit more than we actually did. It's kind of boring for a lot of it, and we've seen these types of films over and over again, and it's hard to keep things fresh when you're doing these kinds of films. I understand that, but like when you watch a movie like Rocket Man, they did that movie in such an interesting way that it was kind of fresh and it was new. It was much better than this movie. Yeah, it's hard to keep this type of movie interesting, but Michael was like such an interesting character that this movie could have been really great. It could have been a great biopic, and it could have been really interesting. There's just a bunch of things that this movie didn't include that they could have explored really well, like the Jackson 5, for example. Um, they actually performed at strip clubs, and they did stuff with prostitutes, and this movie doesn't really explore that at all, and it just feels like they were too scared to go there. But like at the same time, you kind of have to make things interesting, and it was just like the same thing. And also Michael Jackson was Jehovah's Witness, but that is barely explored as well in this movie. You also don't get much scenes where he like writes his songs, because he's a great writer as well. He's a great singer, but he's a great writer, and you don't really get that much here of that. And I would have liked to have seen more than the one scene we got, which I think is probably the best scene in the movie, where he writes his own material. I also like the scene where they come up with the song "Beat It." "Beat It" is my favorite song of his, and I really enjoy that song. So, the concert scenes are fine. Like this movie is very anticlimactic. It ends very abruptly, and like I know the excuse is they had to reshoot this movie, like 20 minutes or something like that of the movie, and yeah, it's very anticlimactic. There's nothing you can do about it, and it's just the way it ends. It feels kind of like thrown together, almost. I was let down by the ending, but yeah, it is what it is. Um, yeah, it almost feels like 2 hours was not enough for the Michael Jackson story, but I don't think that the script would have been good enough for like a 3 hour movie anyway. So yeah, there that is. I just thought that this movie was fine. It's very forgettable. I give this movie a B minus. I don't recommend it. But like if you're a Michael Jackson fan, you're gonna see this movie regardless. So those are my thoughts on Michael. Let me know what you thought of the movie down in the comments below. Please like, comment, subscribe, and see you next time.